He erased and burned his personal documents and stopped talking about his diaries. Companions claimed to be embarrassed, but the reality was darker. What transpired during those last months of production that resulted in Britain's most courageous actor wants to remove all evidence of his most recent performance. Dirk Bogarde was born at Hampstead on March 28, 1921, London. Derek Jules was his full name. Vandenbog, Gaspard Ulrich Nan. The name itself had the feel of a narrative. It carried out traces of his Scottish, Dutch, and English origins. His father's side was connected to his Flemish heritage, and his revealed a European air class. However, behind that impressive name was a young man who would live his entire life in concealment, as he disclosed. From the beginning, Dirk was a skilled actor. Even his Dirk Bogarde's stage name was a disguise who following World War II, and it aided him to appear more approachable, but it concealed a much more nuanced reality. Dirk Ulrich Vanden Bogarde's father was a well-known art critic and the original editor. His mom, actress Margaret Nan, used to Beand, who was a famous person's daughter, painter from Scotland. Their residence in North London frequently hosted writers, artists, and performers. Growing up, Dirk was surrounded by creativity and culture, but this world taught him the value of staying current. And looks, he discovered early on that reputation was crucial. His dad hoped Dirk would carry on with his art at the time. Dirk's footprints were instead. They were lured to the stage, high-earned to escape and to create. At a certain age, 18, Dirk entered the West in 1939. Cornelius by J.B. Priestley. Last seen under the stage name Derek Bogarde. He demonstrated his charm and intensity. At that time he employed functioning as a means of self-defense on the stage, conceal oneself behind a character. This dual existence, both private and public, was something he would learn. However, just as when his career started, everything changed. Conflict emerged, and Dirk's path as anti-actor was placed on hold. Prior to the conflict, Dirk attended Chelsea College of Art for his studies. He studied under renowned artists there. Similar to Henry Moore, he evolved not just his attention to detail, as well as his knowledge of image construction. His passion for literature and the arts, particularly during World War I, influenced his perspective on the world. When World War came, he was forced to drop out of school. Behind, however, what he discovered at Chelsea remained with him, as evidenced by all of his subsequent work as an actor, a painter, and a writer. In 1940, Dirk enlisted in the British Army. At the age of 22, he served as a member of the Queen's Royal Unit, West Surrey. Over 5 years, he gained promotion to major and received 7 medals. He was employed as an intelligence officer, researching aerial images to aid in attack planning and direction Allied forces. His work was somber and frequently kept a secret. He collaborated with Field Group 21 of Marshal Montgomery's army as well as the Canadian Air Force. Dirk never discussed his service with pride, rather, he minimized his part. However, the evidence points to a young man who took up a lot of responsibility and carried it out carefully. Among the most eerie, Dirk's allegation was part of his war narrative. Says he observed the release of Blues in detention camp in Bergen, April of 1945. He reported witnessing starvation, mounds of bodies and survivors. A young girl, starvation destroying her physique and dullness, addressed him in English. These people's perceptions of him were molded by memories, an individual who had gazed into the heart of fright. Later, however, biographers, this aspect of his story was questioned. There was evidence that he might have gone shortly after the liberation. The camp author not as a first-entry participant. A few believe he confused what he's seen with what they told him, whether or not the specifics were accurate. The sentimental reality of that he never forgot that moment. Dirk's in the war work involved more than just studying pictures. Bombing was his only option. Targets. His choices might save Allied life, but at the expense of innocent ones. Communities can be ruined due to the marks he sketched on a map. Following the conflict, he was tormented by guilt. He would always remember that families and children perished as a result of many decisions he needed to make. He mentioned that nightmares and the debilitating weight of he was followed by this guilt throughout the remainder of his days. Eventually, Dirk went to a village that he had designated for bombing. He believed he had spotted footballs buried beneath the debris, but they weren't footballs. They were the craniums of kids. They had corralled the kids for protection down a little lane, but the structures fell on top of them during Theos. Something was broken by this sight within him. The trauma stayed with him forever of what he witnessed, which plagued his eyes of dreams. The conflict left its effect on Dirk that was hidden from view. He made the call an interior tattoo. The surprise of what he had seen was ingrained in him forever. He discussed how such trauma could never really go away. It influenced the way he perceived himself, his relationships with others, and his methods. His suffering was evident in both in his writing and in his performances. Dirk Bogarde endured those wounds. Each day, the voyage of Dirk Bogarde to being famous seemed like something out of a meme. He made an appearance on stage in 1947. Power Without Glory, a play at the Lindsay Theatre, New The show was so strong that it attracted notice of Noel Coward among the most well-known performers and authors. Cowardly impressed so much that he pushed Bogart not to give up performing. That guidance was altered. Everything. Soon after, a scout for talent from the Rank organization became aware of the commotion and made a contract offer to Bogart. At the time, it was uncommon to acquire a Rank contract. It indicated that Bogart was destined to become a celebrity prior to his appearance in Amivi. The studio gambled on him, and it was successful. Bogart soon turned into one of the best actors in Britain. His name changed as well. Derek Nan Vanden was born. His first name, Bogart, seemed excessively lengthy and unfamiliar to Brit. Dirk was recommended by his agent Bogart. The name has a piercing, enigmatic felt that fit their desired image. This wasn't a minor adjustment, it was beginning of a different identity. Bogart, Dirk Beckham, well known throughout the United Kingdom. Within 10 his name appeared on posters for years. All over. The name selection was beneficial, influenced how he was perceived. Advanced, powerful and captivating. His big break came in cinema in 1950. He portrayed Tom Riley, a heartless police murderer. In The Blue Lamp, audiences were surprised by this. Law and order were cherished in post-war Britain. And witnessing a figure such as Riley was unsettled, and Bogart's performance seemed genuine and scary. The movie took home the Best British Film BAFTA Award, 1951. Additionally, it distinguished Bogart as an actor ready to portray antagonists and characters who are extremely disturbed. His accomplishments, The Blue Lamp, created new opportunities and prepared the ground for greater cultures. Bogart was a box office success by 1955. King. His portrayal of Simon Sparrow, Dr. Simon Innan, 1954. Doctor in the House made him a recognizable brand. That movie brought in 17 million people were admitted in its first year. He became the biggest box office star in Britain in 1955, as well as 1957. He was adored by everyone as the clean-cut, charming hero. But even in the midst of this, Bogart felt stuck in time. He desired bind a secure, dependable responsibility. It was a part of being famous. This desire for parts were already becoming increasingly sophisticated. Within him, he achieved achievement. With a significant contract, Bogart agreed to a 14-year take care of the Rank organization. He started up making $30 a week. That number increased as his flicks gained popularity. The agreement provided him with financial security, but it bound him to responsibilities as well. He no longer desired. While he was signing the agreement, Bogart was considering how to escape. He wasn't content to be just an idol for the matinee. His dream was to work that had a deeper meaning. In 1961, he took a risk when he was at his Bogart departed his position of stardom. He had starred in more than 30 movies and won the box office workless, but he was finished. Leaving from such achievement was dangerous. You could lose your career, fans, money, and everything else. Stability. However, Bogart preferred art to his first endeavor following his departure, Victim, 1961, in which he performed a close-minded gay attorney. The part was contentious because it demonstrated he was willing to take chances, for the purpose of telling stories that have meaning. 2 years later, he made yet another bold step. In 1963's The Servant, Bogart portrayed Barrett, a cunning manservant. The part was sinister, deformed, and an antithesis of the lovable heroes he was a player once. Bogart selected this section. Intentionally, he desired to demolish that persona that had brought him fame. Viewers were horrified by The Servant. It was evident the extent to which Bogart would challenge both his audience and himself. The risk. His performance earned him his first Best Actor BAFTA Award in 1964. He made Barrett come to life with veiled threat. The movie's black and the tight atmosphere and monochrome appearance added to discomfort. Bogart discovered the ideal director, Joseph's creative partner Losi. Losi was placed on a blacklist in Hollywood, but discovered fresh liberty in Britain. Detractors similar to Pauline Kael and Roger Ebert denounced it as romantic and vile pornography while shooting. Bogart once held up in public wearing the full SS regalia. The audience applauded and sang along with a Nazi band anthem. Bogart was appalled. Later he claimed to be physically ill. The movie's dark examination of power, trauma, and desire led to unending discussion. A few referred to it as art. Others perceived it as offensive. Even now, The Night Porter provokes intense debate regarding the boundaries of motion pictures. 3 years before, in 1971, Bogart's death had already caused a stir. In Venice, he portrayed Gustav von composer Aschenbach, who becomes infatuated with a teenage boy during taking a trip to Venice. The movie is based on the work by Thomas Mann was near liquid. Bogart made use of motions and looks to depict the character's internal conflict. Focusing on the boy, who was portrayed Bibjan Andre in 14, created some critics are uncomfortable. Lucchino, the director Visconti, has a reputation for pushing boundaries. In March, the movie made its London premiere, January 1st, 1971. It took home the Best BAFTA Award, the greatest production in cinematography. With time, it emerged as one of their most prestigious LGBT and artist films ever produced. Bogart's audacious act demonstrated his willingness to investigate their deepest recesses of human passion. Prior to Bogart had already passed away in Venice, accepting controversy in The Damned 1969. He performed the role of Friedrich Bruckmann. Of a wealthy German household tainted by the Nazism's ascent, the movie revealed rape, incest, treachery and moral collapse. Because it was so clear, it earned in the US an X rating. Only following did deleting 12 minutes result in a downgrade to an R. The narrative reflected the actual life of the Krupp family and shown the power ruins. The decision Bogart made to take this role distinguished him. Numerous actors from Britain steered clear of such gloomy European films. However, Bogart seems drawn to elements that compel audiences to confront difficult realities. Bogart's responsibilities across his career frequently revealed his own hit. He led a tranquil life with his partner for many years, Anthony Forward. However, he never discussed it in public, worried about the harm it might cause. Rather, he explored secrets through his characters, aspirations, and hidden realities. In the His Bandit Singer Not the Song 1960, characters shared tense moments, hinting to something with a priest. Bogart chose daring costumes. Enjoy black and tight leather pants, gloves to demonstrate the sexual vitality. Movies such as The Servant, Victim, and Death allowed him to carry pieces to Venice of his own suffering and desire to the screen. Anthony Forward met Dirk Bogart in 1939. At first, it appeared normal. Forward was a member of the theater already. The world Bogart was only getting started. Bogart hired Forward as his driver. However, that job quickly developed into something significant. Deeper, they started dating in secret. That lasted for half a century. Forward was his supervisor, his best buddy, and the one he trusted most. In the open, he was always referred to as Forward by Bogart. Nobody never truly outside their circle realized how near they were. What they shared was never seen by the world, because back then, being gay might lead to a career or worse. Their affection endured. Legislation, public opinion, and the pressure of celebrity. Forward passed away in 1988. Bogart's loss, according to friends, was beyond words. They departed in the early 1970s. England, then relocated south of France. They discovered a 15th century farm close to Grasse. It was known as They fixed it together, transforming it into a tranquil retreat, encircled by olive and lavender field trees. They spent nearly 20 years there. Even well-known pals like Ingrid Bergman came to visit. However, the tranquility didn't endure indefinitely. Forward became unwell in the 1980s. He had cancer of the liver and Parkinson's disease. Bogart sold their house and brought him back to London so he could take good care of him. The farmhouse had provided them happiness and freedom, but it also made them aware of how much they needed to conceal from the globe. Forward accomplished much more rather than oversee Bogart's career. He molded it. He chose the appropriate scripts, managed money, and carefully considered each step. Over and above, that's why he grounded Bogart. There had been many difficulties in life and moments of restlessness. Forward handed him he required stability. Visitors, they were always struck by how well Forward's assistants provided the guts to take on dangerous roles, even movies with homosexual themes, being aware that he had a secure location to come back. After Forward fell ill, Bogart supported him, demonstrating the breadth of their final bond. In 1970, Bogart's name was on a KGB secret list. He was one of the KGB's 6 gay British males discovered through a man they had extortion while visiting Moscow in the latter part of the 1950s. These were only a handful, years after the legalization of homosexuality in 1967 in England. However, even in that case, there was still a lot of fear of blackmail. KGB viewed such a secret as an opportunity to coerce a person into spying. Bogart was well known for movies like Victim, and his name was Death in Venice. That resulted in he was targeted in the shadow of the Cold War. Games, the individual who surrendered the list had been made to do so by the Soviet Union. The entire item demonstrated how risky it was to keep any secret during those stressful moments. The risk was taken seriously by MI5. They issued a warning, fear that the KGB may attempt to establish a trap for him. The concept was straightforward. A homosexual and entrapment sting could destroy a person's life and make them spy on others. Bogart was shook at hearing this. He was upset and afraid. He had put in a great deal of effort to conceal his personal life, and now he thought it might be used against him at any time. MI5 had witnessed additional deaths. This is how it's damaged. That was not what they desired to occur to Bogart. The alert shown how queer and how brittle celebrity can be. Men in the public eye were at risk from every angle. An MI5 officer met in 1971 Bogart at the Nice-based British consulate, France. FM was the officer's name, Marfield. This wasn't merely a cordial talk. This meeting was serious. They wished to determine whether Bogart could withstand a KGB trap. According to the documents, Bogart was cautious and serious. He maintained that he able to manage himself and avoid falling for any trickery. The officer concurred that Bogart didn't appear likely to be involved in a plot like that. However, they cautioned him to do not enter the Soviet Union. Instance. The entire incident demonstrated how closely Bogart and other notable individuals were observed, particularly homosexual men during the Cold War. A KGB defector who went by coinserted an additional twist. According to KO, the Soviet Shah attempted to enlist a youthful British performer when visiting Moscow in 1958 or 1959. He was unable to recall the actor's name, but he brought up a movie title like As Something's Kingdom. MI5 considered the 1957 movie Campbell's Kingdom, which starred Bogart. Despite the lack of evidence Bogart's visit to Russia, that tiny hint was sufficient to trigger an alarm bells. It demonstrated how one particular detail could put someone in danger, no matter how thin danger in that spy world. Bogart was terrified of what might occur if he visited Russia at all. He informed me 5. He was concerned about consuming too much alcohol at a Soviet party and taking action harmless, as if he were placing an arm around a different dude. That might be sufficient to catch him. The Soviet Union was renowned for employing such tactics. Bogart was concerned about they demonstrated the ongoing stress he lived beneath, being aware that even tiny errors might ruin his life. Enduring the Cold War, the dangers were all about, and Bogart needed to protect his kept a secret at all times. Dirk Bogart didn't simply play parts in movies. He related his tale in his own words. In 1977, it began with A Postilion. His debut memoir was impacted by lightning. That novel turned into a bestseller, and the 6 that follow it came after. For more than 2 decades, readers tracked his life from an Edwardian perspective. From infancy to European cinema fame star, he had a beautiful writing style. There were rich details in the narrative. However, the reason these texts were so captivating was what he decided to conceal. In 1986, only Bogart burnt prior to a significant TV interview. His wartime journals and private letters, it was the action. He acknowledged all about a man hiding. The texts came to life his history, but also held a number of secrets in the darkness. Titles such as Snakes and Ladders, 1978, 1983's An Orderly Man, Backloth, 1986, A Quick Stroll from Herod's, 1993, Takeoff cleared in 1995, and temporarily, 1998 turned into literary activities. Readers were left with as many queries as responses. Bogart went beyond memoirs. He penned 6 books published from 1980 to 1997. His initial The Tone was established by A Gentle Occupation, 1980. Voices in the Garden, 1981. Followed 1984's West of Sunset, Jericho 1992, and 1994, The Adjustment Phase, and Class Ranks, 1997. His fiction combined fact and fiction. Innovation. He investigated memory, war, and identity. Critics lauded his psychological understanding and audacious fashion. Bogart simultaneously authored essays and evaluations for publications such as the Daily Send, a Telegram. His keen wit was evident as currently 1998. When he gathered at these compositions, he gained power from writing. He didn't appear on screen. This time he molded his own persona.